been going on regarding Laura Ingraham and the aftermath of the Parkland shooting, which is now 6 weeks ago, but the media have been all over it since then, pushing the gun control agenda. I want to begin by pointing out that the media's agenda here is absolutely clear. The media is using the Parkland shooting as a crutch, as a lever, in order to push gun control and in order to attack their political opponents. And really, it's more the latter than the former. It's not even about pushing gun control so much as castigating anyone they don't like, castigating anyone with whom they disagree as a bad human being. This is what the media are into. The media want to make it seem like if you disagree with them on gun control, this makes you a bad person. They're actually not that interested in gun control legislation actually getting passed. Because if they were, they would stop browbeating people like Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, who's been working with Bill Nelson, a Democrat senator from Florida, to push legislation. They would stop ripping on Republicans as uncaring, unfeeling monsters with blood on their hands. The media are interested in one thing and one thing only in the aftermath of Parkland, and that is pushing the gun control narrative specifically so they can push their more important primary narrative. The gun control narrative is secondary. The primary narrative is that you are a bad person if you like guns. You're a bad person if you're pro-Second Amendment. Okay, this is their agenda. How can you tell this is their agenda? Because even other left-wing agenda points go by the wayside if it doesn't serve the primary agenda. So here's what I mean by that. There's a whole group of students over at Parkland who are even further left than the group of students you've seen on TV, the Emma Gonzalez's and the David Hoggs and the Cameron Kaskis. There's a whole group of students that are even more to the left, but you never see them on TV. Why don't you see those left-wing students on TV? After all, the media is full of leftists. The answer is because these students are not serving the left-wing agenda of pushing gun control, and therefore they are not pushing the broader left-wing agenda of making those of us who are anti-gun control look like bad people. So here are some of the kids who have been talking but not being heard. There's some black students over at Stoneman Douglas who are being completely ignored by the media. You've never seen any of these folks on TV. You've never heard of any of these people. But here they were, and the agenda they're pushing is that they don't want more school safety officers in school because they're afraid that that's going to lead to more arrests of black kids. So here's them talking about this.
The Black Lives Matter movement has been addressing this topic since the murder of Trayvon Martin in 2012. Yet we have never seen this kind of support for our cause, and we surely do not feel that the lives or voices of minorities are valued as much as those of our white counterparts. I am here today with my classmates because we have been sorely underrepresented and in some cases misrepresented.
Dr. Rosalind Osgood is a school board member in Broward County. She helped these students organize and helped them get the media's attention.
And let's find means and modes of making their voice available so that they can be heard.
Okay, so we can stop it there, but these people were not heard, right? You're not hearing from any of these students, right? This appears maybe a little bit in local media, maybe for a brief second in national media, and then it goes away. Why? Wouldn't this be the intersectional moment? Wouldn't this be the intersectional talking point? Remember, the left's ideology is intersectional. They believe that you can judge someone's opinion and the value of their opinion simply by looking at the group identity, simply by looking at the group to which they belong. So these are black students. That means that their opinions should be held in higher esteem than the white students like David Hogg, right? Otherwise, you're just exacerbating white privilege. But the media aren't focusing on these black students. Why aren't they focusing on these black students? Because these black students do not serve their agenda. If these black students were out there front and center calling for gun control and suggesting that everyone who didn't like gun control is a bad person, the media would have them on every single day. So this is why when people say they are intersectional leftists, what they really mean is they are leftists first and intersectional second. Intersectionality, that identity politics philosophy, that philosophy that we can judge you as an individual by your group identity and your viewpoints value by your group identity, that's only important to the left when it serves the purpose of the left. Right? Clarence Thomas isn't a legit black man, according to the left, because his intersectional experiences as a black man don't count because he doesn't agree with the left. Well, the same thing is true of these students. They're not forwarding the left's hardcore agenda, and that means that their black skin no longer counts in the intersectional hierarchy because they're just not that important. Which shows you that all the members of the intersectional hierarchy, all the members of this intersectional coalition who are supposedly going to get together to rip down the system, it's really far less about mutual respect for ethnicity and much more about mobilizing to defeat the supposed patriarchy, to defeat the white privilege system. And that's why the media can safely ignore these black kids and pretend like nothing is happening with them because it doesn't serve their higher agenda. Well, what does serve their higher agenda? Right now, what serves their higher agenda is using gun control to push for boycotts against media figures they don't like. So this is a continuation of what happened last week. Laura Ingraham, the Fox News host, she was boycotted. Not even really boycott. There's an AstroTurf boycott attempt by David Hogg, who's a student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and he was present when the shooting happened. And he's obviously been put all over the media. You've seen him saying really vile things about people he disagrees with, saying they have blood on their hands, saying that Marco Rubio's a murderer who basically took $1.05 from the NRA for every Florida student and all the rest. Well, David Hogg, he was interviewed by TMZ after visiting some colleges, and he was asked how the college admission stuff was going. And he said, well, to be honest with you, it ain't going that great. There are 4 colleges that didn't let me in. And I understand there are a lot of people who can fill those slots. But if the colleges want to help us out, they can help us out. And if they don't want to help us out, they don't want to help us out. Well, this prompted Laura Ingraham to tweet out that he was whining about his college admissions. Was that ill-advised? Yes. Is it something I would have recommended saying? No. Do I think that we should attack the perspectives that are wrong? Yes. Do I think we should attack the people expressing those perspectives? Not really. But Laura says all of this. And then Hogg's response is not, well, Laura, that was kind of a jerky thing to say. His response is directly from the Media Matters playbook. Media Matters, if you don't know, is a left-wing group co-founded essentially by Hillary Clinton. And that group has been designed for literally a decade and a half to launch astroturfed boycotts against major right-wing media figures. People like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly, and now against Laura Ingraham. And so this student, David Hogg, he immediately comes forward with a list of the advertisers on Laura Ingraham's show. Right within minutes, he's got a list. Amazing how that worked. It was just incredible. And then all of these advertisers start dropping Laura's show because they don't want the blowback. Because here's the dirty little secret about a lot of advertisers. They're more afraid of the blowback than they are interested in experiencing the pleasure of advertising on a given show. When an advertiser advertises on a show, usually what they're looking for is an outlet to speak to a vast group of people. What they don't want is bad publicity. So even the merest sign of bad publicity for a lot of advertisers is toxic, and a lot of them run away. And so Laura Ingraham apologizes, and David Hogg says, I'm not going to accept the apology. I'm still going to push forward with the boycott. And the media are giddy over this because finally they have a kid that they can stand behind. And this kid is unattackable, right? You're not supposed to say anything bad about him, even about his perspective. You're not even supposed to say he says immoral things because that would be attacking him. And this is according to the folks in the media. Right? Brian Stelter on CNN said he does not ask people like David Hogg questions when they say things that are absolutely unacceptable because that would be somehow impugning their dignity or honor. I think Brian tries, but I think that was a pretty telling statement. Okay, David Hogg is being used as a shield by the media in order so they can push the sword at their political enemies like Fox News and Laura Ingraham. So Hogg, of course, is really excited about this, and he's going to become the boycott leader of the left, and the left is happy to use him this way. He says that corporate America is standing with him. Here's him making the statement to Allison Camerata, who, by the way, last week said that what college wouldn't let someone like you in? To David Hogg. Well, David Hogg wasn't let into some of the colleges on the West Coast because his SAT scores weren't high enough. I mean, all of his admissions were done months ago before any of this happened. And his SAT scores, apparently, according to David Hogg, are like a 1270, which is a fine SAT score, but that's 100 points below the average at UCLA. So he wouldn't expect to get into UCLA. In any case, here's Allison Camerata and David Hogg, making out on national TV, or, her at least plastering her lips to his butt.
I think it's great that corporate America is standing with me and the rest of my friends, because when you come against any one of us, whether it be me or anybody else, you're coming against all of us. And I think it's important that we stand together as both corporate and civic America to take action against these people and show them that they cannot push us around, especially when all we're trying to do here is save lives.
Okay, well, that's all he's trying to do. Forget all the things that he said that are terrible about people, calling Dana Lash a murderer and someone who doesn't care about her children, and saying the same thing about Marco Rubio. And Allison Camerata just sitting there nodding through this whole thing. Corporate America is not standing with David Hogg. Corporate America is standing with non-controversy. And this is the truth about corporate America. They don't want controversy, which is understandable. If you run a business and you are selling a sleep aid and you are on a show and the show starts to become very controversial and suddenly your sleep aid is popping up in all the ads, you're afraid of the blowback. And so maybe you pull your advertisements. The left knows this, and that's why they're pushing it. And so David Hogg decides to push this even further. He says, listen, I understand that Laura Ingraham apologized to me, and I don't accept her apology, but she shouldn't just stop there. She should also apologize again on CNN, of course, on CNN. And then he says, you know what else? I would really appreciate if she would apologize to LeBron James. Why LeBron James? Okay, because a month before this shooting happened in Parkland, she said to LeBron James that he should shut up and dribble. We talked about it on the show. It wasn't something that I was fond of her saying. In fact, I criticized her saying it, but David Hogg is now going to be the apology police. He's the civility police, right? This guy who goes around saying that you have blood on your hands if you disagree with him, this is Captain Civility now, according to the members of the mainstream media. Here he is explaining that Laura Ingraham should apologize to LeBron James too, or something.
There have been multiple instances throughout Ingram's professional career where she's tried calling out people, for example, at Dartmouth University because of their sexual orientation, and she told LeBron James to shut up and dribble. I don't see any apology for those people. I mean, why? It's really sad. It's disturbing to know that.
Stop, whatever. Okay, it's just absurd. Why should she apologize to David Hogg if he's not going to accept it? And then why is he calling on her to apologize to other people if he says the apologies mean nothing? None of this makes any sense, except insofar as the media are happy to watch David Hogg go out there and call for boycotts because they want Fox News boycotted. They're a competitor. And then they want people, and then they are firmly convinced that you can anything that David Hogg says. Again, David Hogg seems like a smart kid. David Hogg seems like a politically wily player. That doesn't mean everything that he says is moral or decent. In fact, I think a large percentage of what he says is immoral and indecent. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to show you what CNN's real